Discover what you're passionate about, and you fucking hit the gas. Do not make excuses. Do not make rationalizations. Do something that you're intrinsically connected with, because at the end of the day, that's where your fuel source will come from. If you're looking for motivation to do your job, to wake up in the morning, it's because you're not motivated. It's because you're not intrinsically connected with what you want to do in life. You're not passionate about it. And if you're not passionate about it, why are you doing it? Because we're here for a short time, my friend.
Good morning. It's pretty crazy the drop off you get early morning on a Saturday. You know, even though I came in a little bit actually a lot of it later, like an hour and a half later than normal. The volume of people here has tremendously reduced. That's interesting, you know. And it just makes me consider, it's like, do you have a routine set up for the weekdays, but nothing set up for the weekends? Do you treat the weekends differently? And granted, I did sleep in a little bit. However, the routine stays the same, you know. Get up, get active first thing in the morning. Unless you feel like you're either sick, you know, you absolutely need the day to recover. I feel like, you know, people will convince themselves to do something like entertainment every single day of the week. Or maybe they'll be pushing in their business every single day of the week. But then when it comes to working on themselves, they take days off. The one thing you should never take a day off with is working on yourself, period. And whatever avenue you choose to develop in, you should do it every day. It's just a good habit to get into. And you tend to weed out the comfort demon and that self-negotiation that takes place when you start to get erratic and chaotic with the schedule. So listen, work on yourself every single day, friend, no matter what. I don't care if it's a weekend. I don't care if it's Saturday. Get your ass up and get after it. We are hitting some chest today. I'm going to start off with some incline pressing. I did a little bit of external rotation work to open up the shoulders, but I'm going to jump right into some incline today and then see where the workout takes me. Let's have some fun. No. 5, 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, 9, 8, 9. All right, so I just did a few sets of incline. Left shoulder is a little bit tight today. I was on my laptop last night for like a few hours, and I didn't wear that posture brace that I usually wear, and I can definitely feel the shoulder tightening up on me. And this is why it's so important to focus on investment activities, right? Which means, how are you spending your time to help correct future issues or to help like seed future benefit? And you know, when I wear a posture brace, I tell people, they're like, why do I need to wear this bra? I said, well, why do you invest your money? You know, like, why don't you just fucking spend it? It's like you have to do activities that are going to yield some sort of future benefit. It's going to compound over time. And the reality is, gravity is constantly fighting your posture, right? You're going to pull your shoulders forward and down, and it's going to lock them. And not only it's not going to take out the aesthetic benefit of having like a nice upright posture to make you look like you're nice and full and not like a collapsed chest like this, but I talk a lot about like mechanical pain, you know, which meaning is like certain parts of movements, you know, whether that be shoulder or back or even arm exercises or a lot of chest movement, you feel like residual shoulder tension or tightness. And that's because you're not investing the time into making sure you have good, proper posture, right? If you have financial issues in the future, it's because you haven't made good financial decisions. If you have health issues, whether that be pain or weight gain or, lethargy, like chronic fatigue, low energy levels, it's because you haven't done the activities to compound and build that asset over time, your health asset, right? So you need to focus on those high return items. And it's funny because when I sit down with people in consultation settings, we'll have this conversation to where, everything's making sense. Everything's clicking. The value's there. They're like, hell yeah, this is fucking exactly what I want. And then it comes down to a matter of price and time commitment. And very rarely do I ever get in the settings where I have conversations with people where they think the price is too much. Because if you show the value, the price should not be an issue. However, there is some individuals who have the money to spend, but they don't have the prioritization in place because they don't yet see what it can do for them. And even if you paint that picture, their arrogance and connection with money is so great that they can't understand that utilizing that money and resource to its benefit of building your health asset will make you more money in the future. Some people have scarce mindsets. So kind of not getting off into too much of a tangent here, but you need self-prioritization. You need to focus on high return activities that are going to pay you in the future. And that's not just with money, that's with your fucking health, man. Like, what are you doing to, for the 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old you, Like, there's one of my favorite quotes by Jim Rohn is, in 10 years you will arrive. The question is where? And what is that experience going to look like for you? You don't want to put in the money now. Well, you're going to put in the money later. And it's going to be 10 times harder because you're going to be in a fucking hole. So don't push this shit off. Don't negotiate. You have to invest into your well-being. Because if you don't, well, then you're going to pay it regardless in the future. And chances are you're going to need surgery. Chances are you're going to be on painkillers. Chances are you're going to have some type of medical anomaly or disability or issue or chronic pain that's going to impede your quality of life. And why the fuck would you not try to fix that in advance? I'm sure if you're in business now, you'll understand that the people that you talk to that are still focusing on just spending their money erratically, they're not saving, they're not investing, they're not putting anything towards their future, they're not building assets. You're like, what are you fucking doing? Are you dumb? Like 10 years down the road, you're not going to fix anything. It's just going to compound. You're going to be in financial slavery. Well, friend, you are going to be in fucking health slavery because you have not convinced yourself that you are important. So you better get your ass in here and get to work. Okay? Wear a fucking posture brace, eat healthy food, spend money on your health. I spend about $400 a week on fucking groceries for myself. And you're sitting there trying to fucking negotiate with the money that you spend on your well-being. It's not what it costs, it's what it's worth. And all this money goes into you and builds equity into your health. So I don't know what the fuck you're complaining about. So let's get moving. Okay, that is a wrap. So now I am just chilling at the Tesla station, charging the car, and then I have to go to Whole Foods, do a little grocery run, and then I don't know. I got Saturday off today, but we got a little prep work to do. So we just got a place that we're leasing out in Fountain Hills, and I'll be able to give you a little tour of that place. We're gonna get it cleaned up first. So the cleaning lady's gonna be coming out on Saturday, and let me tell you how fantastic it is to have connections. Look, if you're not building connections in your life, and if you're not trying to leverage the social terrain, if you're not trying to become acquaintances or friends or allies with people that are doing better than you in life, then my friend, you are going to bottleneck your growth significantly, because you can't do this shit alone. I'll tell you, when you have people that have connections, it makes your life so much easier. And you may think a cleaning lady may not be that big of a connection, but that is just a small fraction of the opportunities and people and connections that I've made in a very short period of time in Scottsdale working at Lifetime. It has been insane. And I was telling my team the other day, I said, you got to disregard pay for a moment. And you're in a sales position, so you should be able to make as much money as you want. However, disregard pay for a moment. And think about the utility of the circumstances around you and what it can make you become. Think about the challenges, the adversities, the opportunities that sit in front of you, the people that you can meet that could change your life. You know, like we live in Scottsdale, it is the largest millionaire hub in the world, second only to Shenzhen, China. So it's the second largest millionaire hub in the world, which means there's a high density of wealth here. And when there's a high density of wealth, generally speaking, there's a high density of value, right? There's a high density of information, knowledge, connections, opportunities. And as long as you have something to give to those people, they will be able to give something in return to you. So, yeah, my shake is both warm and has no raisins in it. Fuck. But I do have some rice cakes, and I do have my coffee sitting right here too. So, yeah, about 8:30 right now. You know, I love getting shit done first thing in the morning. I do not like to. Some people like to just chill. You know, I don't like to chill in the morning. I like to chill in the afternoon. I like to hustle from 5 a.m. until 2 p.m. And then 2 p.m. up until about 7 or 8 p.m. I like to fucking work on creative endeavors and literally chill. I've always been a morning person. I remember when I was a child, and I was always ready to fucking go. The second I woke up, I was ready to hit the ground running. I'd fucking sit up out of bed military style, and I would already have my clothes in advance, sitting in front of me, folded, and I'm like, I am ready. And I encourage you to do some reflection about your past, and I want you to think back to when you were a child. And was there anything in your life that stood out as a character trait, as a personality quirk, as a highlighted feature of your attitude? Was there anything that stood out? And I encourage you to try to identify what that is and see how that can actually kind of weave its way into your life today, because you don't fundamentally change at your core. I think actually you get in your way as you get older sometimes. As you accumulate knowledge, you create bias. And as you get experiences, you develop insecurities and fears. And you develop a sense of anticipation and hesitation. But when you're a child, you look at the world in a much different lens. You look at the world more in an opportunistic way. You look at the world from a sense of curiosity. All right. You don't look in the world as a sense of skepticism and reasoning. You look at it as possibility. Right. And I encourage you to think back when you were a child. Sometimes it's good to even ask your parents if you have a good relationship with them. But even if you don't, maybe it's a good way to establish one. It's just ask them, just say, what was I like as a child? Don't give me the nitty gritty, the fluffy, the silly things. How was I actually, as an objective understanding? If you were viewing me as a child and you had to write who I was down on a sheet of paper, can you explain to me the type of person who I was? And you will be thoroughly surprised the information that you get back. And generally speaking, your parents are pretty happy to talk about that stuff, unless unless your uncle had you in the dirt and sexually abused you as a kid or something. I don't fucking know. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no, I don't think that. I don't think sexual harassment is funny. I just, my mind's fucking nuts. Anyway, so determining who you are as a child and using that information to help you pivot in life and make life decisions. Come here, you little bitch. All right, we had to get a little bit provocative there, and I had to tongue that shaker cup. Rice cakes. All right, so get back to it. Why is that important? Well, it'll help you develop self-awareness. It'll help you develop self-awareness, which can help you make more informed decisions. And by informed, I don't just mean educated. You know, a lot of people think that you need to make decisions strictly from a rational sense. Let me ask you a question. When you make decisions in life, do you think you make them rationally? Or do you think you make them emotionally and then rationalize them? I can tell you that 9 times out of 10 people make decisions emotionally because your decision-making center is actually in your limbic brain, which is the center of emotions. Man, there's some like exotic birds sitting in front of me. They're like blue and yellow. I wonder if I can like get them. They're like in a tree right now. Sorry, my ADD's kicking in here. Let me see if I can get... Let me see. Come on, pop your little heads out. Damn. That's crazy. Like literally they look like rainforest birds. Like they're yellow and blue. I don't know. Maybe I'm hallucinating. Let's get back to it. Positional awareness, self-awareness, learning to make decisions, you know, based on who you are and those emotions that are passionately connected to your core, because that will help you live a more satisfied and holistic life. You know, if you feel in some way, shape, or form that you are not currently in the position in life that you want to be in, it's probably because you're not intrinsically aligned with who you want to become. You know, at your core, you're not identifying, or your actions aren't identifying with who you feel like you are, right? And it sounds pretty complicated, but the simplest way to think about it is when you were a child and your parents asked you what you wanted to become when you got older, or maybe you just even thought about it yourself. Maybe you came to that understanding and maybe you just started like doing things and activities aligned with that, right? Maybe you wanted to be a firefighter, an artist, you know? You gotta ask yourself, what is it inside of you, deep down inside of you, that made you feel like you wanted to become an artist, or you wanted to become a firefighter, or you wanted to become a rocket scientist? You know, what was it about your curious little mind that has been unaffected by bias and skepticism and propaganda when you were a child? What was that holistic sense of who you wanted to become? Because that's pure and core at your nature. Now, as you develop more knowledge through life, you will refine that. But what is it that you intrinsically felt linked to as a child? I feel like that could give you a lot of information about the future. I always was like, even when I was a young kid, I was always very socially aware. I remember this was one time my mom told me that I had longer hair when I was a kid because I just wanted to grow it out, you know? And I'm talking like literally probably like 4 or 5 years old. And this is how socially aware I was. At 4 or 5 years old, my mom took me to McDonald's. And they give you those Happy Meals. And you know, in the Happy Meals back in the day, if this is a little bit beyond your era, they used to give you little toys, right? They used to give you these little toys with your Happy Meal for kids, you know, as a way to get you to come back. Oh, I want a Happy Meal so I can go get a little toy, right? So they give you these cheap little toys. And generally speaking, they have toys for boys and toys for girls because we used to live in an era where gender mattered. Anyway, so they gave me a little girl's toy. And I look at it and I'm like, what the fuck? It was like little pink. And I remember the feeling when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I was like, what the hell is this? I'm like, I ain't a girl. What the fuck? So I took that And I went back up to the counter by myself. I didn't even say anything to my mom, she said. She said, you got angry and you took the toy back up the counter and you slammed it on the counter and you said, I am not a girl, I'm a boy. I want a boy's toy. Oh. Can you imagine a little 4 or 5-year-old coming up to you and you're like a teenager working at a fucking cash register and a little kid just starts to yell at you and tells you what he wants? Pretty wild, right? There was this one other time where we were at the health department, because we were poor and we were trying to get some health insurance or something. I don't fucking know. Anyway, we're sitting there and we're sitting in these little chairs. And, they have those like chairs that are side by side, like in doctor's office, that are like just crammed. You're like sardines in there. And anyway, there was this big lady. I mean, like probably pushing 3 bills, that was sitting in the chair and right next to me. And I looked at the lady and I just got disgusted with how fat she was as a child. A fucking child. I was like, I hated the idea of people being big for some reason. And I looked to my mom, I said, Mom, this lady's fat is touching my arm. Like, I was mad. Like, she was in my space. My mom got so fucking embarrassed because I yelled it at the top of my lungs. And there was people in there laughing. And this poor fat lady was like so embarrassed that some young little like 4 or 5-year-old kid just sat there and just screamed that she was fat and her fat was touching him. Hilarious. Anyway, so that's how I was as a child. And then I started to coach adults. It was very strange. My mom said I was very inquisitive. I would ask a lot of deep questions. And she said a lot of the questions you asked were hard to answer because like they were so thoughtful. And then I was also a rationalizer too. So like she said, I would go to punish you with something and then you would just come up with this like weird explanation as to why that happened, as to why you did what you did. And she goes, sometimes it would make sense. And she goes, I just didn't have anything to say. I'm like, oh my God, I was a fucking nightmare as a child. So I was gifted with communication at a young age. So I use that in many ways. I use that to both rationalize situations to get me out of. I used to actually coach people. Like I remember, it wasn't coaching back then because I was a kid, right? But I would talk to them about like their problems. And I remember they would just kind of just open up to me. Like they would talk to me like I was an adult. It was kind of strange. So I always felt older than I was. And that did put a pressure on me because I always felt like I should be older than I was. And age was an insecurity for me. I didn't like people thinking that I was younger because they treated me differently, and I didn't want to be treated like a child. So I encourage you to think back, maybe there was something about your past. Maybe you were more socially aware. Maybe you had just had this proclivity to solving problems and puzzles. Like my wife went to like the Chinese Math Olympics as a kid, and with her, she's not like a math genius per se, but she's like fucking, when it comes to problem solving and information integration, like finding relationships between organizing information in a system, like she's like fucking incredibly intelligent. Like it's like one of the reasons why I was so attracted to her. I mean, my wife is a 10, but it's her mind that I'm so connected with. Yeah. And I guess this is another good point, is like, do you have in your life relationships of value that progress you, challenge you, and compliment you even? And my wife, she's willing to just trust me and jump when I want to jump because she trusts who I am. But at the same time, somehow she has this awareness to where she knows that I'm making stupid decisions. She goes, stop doing that shit. Get your little bitch boy ass out of that negative headspace. She goes, stop changing things. This was good. Keep doing that. This is what you're meant to do. Because as you have an active mind, you start to wonder if there's something else that you should be doing with it. And that can be very taxing, to say the least. So, look, I mean, maybe you're struggling with something similar. I don't know. But what I think everybody can do, even if you're not struggling, to help you with both positional awareness And to make better life decisions and have a better quality of life is just to kind of figure out and determine what drives you internally, what drives you intrinsically, what at your core do you feel passionately linked with. I was talking to one of my newer trainers the other day, and he said that he wanted to help women with menopause. And I said, well, you're a young man. Why would some woman want to work with a man to help her through menopause? Like, how can you relate to that? Why are you doing that? Why should they come to you? And we started through this inquisition process. I started to keep questioning him, and I'm like, hey, listen, like, why do you want to do that? And then it kind of got around the topic of his mom, and then how his mom struggled with that. And he's seen the implications of like what that did to her health, or her brain fog, like it affected her at work, like, the relationships in her life. And I was like, okay, so like you felt a strong and deep connection with your mother. You seen she had a problem that she didn't know how to solve. And then from there, you decided you wanted to pursue some sort of education because the information you looked up wasn't giving you a direct solution to the problem. It was all complicated, right? So you studied cellular molecular biology to help you understand the root cause of what's going on in terms of hormones and the cellular networks that play a significant role in this problem, right? So you root cause it. So for the last 6 years, you have developed your sole focus to helping women just like your mom create simple solutions that are both effective and easy to reproduce to help you fix the problems caused by menopause, which is the accumulation of body fat, the brain fog and fatigue, and the mental stresses that come with it. Because you don't want any women to be self-defeating like your mother. So you've created a solution for the last 6 years that helps women lose body fat, clear the mental brain fog, and get into the best shape of their life feeling confident again without eating bland foods, without running or lifting heavy weights. And then he just smiled. And I said, do you see the difference in a story when you say that? Because if somebody says, why do you help this person? Why do you do anything at all in life? Why do you choose to do anything in life? I challenge you to think that. You can do anything you want. Why are you doing this? So like when you approach something, you need to think about not the money that you make from an occupation, but who you become. Because you can have a sales job making $500K a year, but maybe you're developing some skills in sales, but you're not really developing connections. You're kind of sitting at a computer all day. You're working 80 hours a week, and you're not really creating long-term relationships. You're just creating transactions. And these people feel no significant sense to want to help you progress in your life necessarily, right? So who are you becoming? That's what I encourage you to think about. And the only way that you can end up making those proper decisions is finding something you're passionate about. Why do you do anything at all, right? Why do you do anything at all? Why do you wake up in the morning? Are you excited to go to bed at night because you just enjoy the prospect of waking up and doing the routine that you set for yourself, living the life that you created by design? Or are you just kind of going through the motions and thinking, oh, fuck, I got to do this again? What a terrible life that is. Why the hell do you want to do that? And what's crazy is you have the choice to do whatever the fuck you want, whenever you want. Whatever you want, whenever you want. And you may say, Gino, I have bills. I have a family. Yeah? You have bills and you have a family, and you'll continue to have bills and a family regardless of where you're at in your life. Right? But don't use your current circumstances as justifications to destroy your long-term future, right? That's a scarce mentality. Why can't you do them both? Why can't you both do something that you're passionate about and pay your bills and be there for your family? Because chances are, if you're doing something that you're passionate about, you're going to make more money and you're going to have more energy for your family at the end of the day. And they're going to be more supportive of you because they can see the positive impact it's having on your psychology. So listen, my friend. If there's something you get from this video, it's this. Discover what you're passionate about, and you fucking hit the gas. Do not make excuses. Do not make rationalizations. Do something that you're intrinsically connected with, because at the end of the day, that's where your fuel source will come from. If you're looking for motivation to do your job, to wake up in the morning, it's because you're not motivated. It's because you're not intrinsically connected with what you want to do in life. You're not passionate about it. And if you're not passionate about it, why are you doing it? Because we're here for a short time, my friend. And you don't want to waste time doing redundant things. You want to do things that are linked to your character, okay? So find what you love, do a little bit of introspection, think back to the past, when maybe you were a child, when you were unbiased, unfiltered, not skeptical, when you didn't put limitations on your mind, your insecurities weren't riddling you, your traumas weren't affecting you. Think back to when you were a kid. What's that wholehearted sense of what you wanted to become? Where was the passion? And I encourage you to follow that. All right, my friend, I want to thank you for watching the video today. If you made it to the end, please like this video and go ahead and subscribe to the channel and let me know what you think. You know, I want to hear your comments down below. You want to hear more coaching content? You want to see more nutrition stuff? You know, do you want to do more workout content? What is it that you like getting from this? What did you resonate with? What did you disagree with? Go ahead and have some dialogue down below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.